Somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes a day is generally enough to see progress in your dog's obedience. So today I'm going to show you just a 10-minute little routine that I will do with my dog just to take him through the basic 5, which is heel, sit, down, stay, and recall. And you should again be able to see progress on this even with 10 minutes a day. However, the more time you can spend, obviously, the better it's going to be. So my dog has the most difficulty with his heel command. This has always been the case. So you'll see that we are doing the heel command disproportionately longer than the other commands, but you know your dog, you know what they struggle with. You focus on the areas where they struggle. Don't just pay attention to the areas where my dog struggles. So the thing about heel is you want to change up your direction and you want to change up your speed. So right here, you can see that I'm changing up my direction. And if you have a dog that's just starting out with this, changing direction, in broader circles is probably better, just so that your dog gets used to changing direction without having to do abrupt, 180-degree turns or what have you. Now, depending on where your dog is at, walking in a straight line and doing some of these big circles might be where you're at. However, if your dog is already mastering those, the point of any training session is to see progress in the exercises that you're doing. So if your dog has already gotten pretty good at this, right there, I just corrected him because he took off ahead of me a bit too far. So yes, the goal is to see progress. So if your dog has already mastered, walking in a straight line and doing some slight direction changes, then you want to start making those direction changes more abrupt. You want to maybe start decreasing and increasing the speed of your walking more rapidly. So right here, you can tell that I have slowed it way down, and the expectation is that he's still going to stay with me, which he's doing all right with. Another thing that you can do that I'm not going to show here is you can run and expect your dog to stay at a heel. Now, you want to give your dog success. So if your dog is failing repeatedly, if you as a team are failing repeatedly at a given exercise, take the difficulty back. So if, for instance, you're running and your dog is running ahead of you or falling behind you, try correcting it. And then if the correction doesn't work, take the pace back a little bit and, maybe walk for 10, 20 feet and then run for like 5 feet and then slow it back down. Another thing that you can do from the heel position is just do quarter turns, like what I'm doing here. If we turn to the side that the dog is on, so here I'm turning to the left, it helps the dog become more aware of their back end, because in order to keep their shoulder at your thigh, their back legs need to be the ones that do the pivoting. So we can do that in one direction, and then we can do it in the other direction, and then we can shake it up a little bit. So now we are going to start introducing a sit command in between his heel command. Now you can do this with both sit and down, but in order to give your dog success, especially at the beginning, please only do either sit or down in between heel. So right here, you can tell that I am using the sit command in between his heel command. And so whenever I would like him to sit, I'm going to communicate with all 3 forms of communication what I want him to do. So with my body, I am going to stop walking. With his lead direction, I'm going to gently pull up. And with my words, I'm going to say sit, or whatever word you use to indicate that your dog should sit. So all 3 of those forms of communication at once should help your dog have success on this. And then once you've done that to the point that you're satisfied that your dog can do it, then we can start working in down. So now I'm only going to ask him to lie down in between our heel command. I'm not going to go back and forth between sit and down, or at least not yet. I'm only going to ask him to lie down. And for lying down, my lead direction is just to pull gently downward on his collar. And as you can tell, I am also like stopping walking and then giving the command and the lead direction. So now that I've made sure the camera is still recording, we are going to work on some down stays and recall. Best way to work your dog on recall is to ask them to either sit and stay or lie down and stay, and then to walk away. And one of the ways that we add challenge and complexity to a drill is by creating distance between ourselves and the dog. So right here, I am creating distance. I'm also adding complexity by increasing duration. The final way we can increase complexity is by adding distraction, but we're already in a grocery store parking lot with all kinds of things around. So those are the 3Ds: distance, duration, and distraction. And that's generally how you add complexity and increase your dog's tolerance to stress and increase your dog's ability to handle challenges, is by adding those 3Ds to any exercise and shaking them up. So you saw there that I had asked him to lie down, to stay, and then I walked a distance away. I recalled him to me, and then when he arrived, I gave him a ton of praise, because in this case, I have no control over what he's doing. If I ask him to sit and the lead is in my hand, I can, in theory, make him sit. I don't want to make him sit, but that can happen. Whereas his recall, I have no control over that. So I want to make his recall to me a really, really happy thing. And all of these exercises assume the one direction, one correction method. So again, adding distance and duration. And adding some more distance, more duration. You can even up the challenge here by starting to run around, or you can, drop down and do some push-ups or some burpees or any strange movement that the dog doesn't realize. So there, I recalled him to me. He tends to blow right past me, but then he comes back around. So that's something that we'll work to tighten up so that he doesn't blow right past me. He just comes to my side. But there, I'm giving him lots of praise. And then we'll do the drill again. So this is just a really straightforward 10-minute routine that you can do with your dog. And if you do this every single day, you will absolutely see results. In each exercise that we're doing, again, we want to see improvement from day to day. Now, sometimes your dog is going to regress a little bit, and we understand that. But from the beginning of the training session to the end of the training session, you should be able to see improvement. So sometimes you might end up just doing maintenance work on one or two things because they're already so good and really working on another thing. Or sometimes you might get to see improvement on all kinds of things. Now here, I am asking him to sit and lie down and stand, which he should have just stood there, but he walked a few steps instead. He's trying to scooch his way back towards me. But again, adding distance and duration, I'm increasing the challenge here for him. So I'm quite distant from him, and I'm adding the duration of time that he needs to be distant from me. And in our 3 forms of communication, because I don't have lead direction here, I'm relying quite heavily on hand signals as well. And again, a recall back to my side. He's really happy to get there, because if your dog is bonded to you, it's going to be motivating to them to get back to your side. And there you have it. That is our little workout routine. I'll often work a bit longer than 10 minutes, but in a pinch, 10 minutes will do.